All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very happy to be here on Root Cause Solutions for You channel. And today I have a very special guest and a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Jenny Lane. And I'm going to let her introduce herself to all of you. So thank you so much for being today, Dr. Lane.
Thank you so much for the invitation and for all you do. We've gotten to co-manage a case together, and I know we'll have many more in the future. So I'm excited. Yeah, I am a chiropractor who focuses on pregnancy and pediatrics. I feel that chiropractic found me. I was actually focusing on end-of-life care in my college career, and it was a mission trip to Brazil where there was 18 of us doctors, and I literally was having a line of 15 or 20 people wait for me when 2 or 3 of the other doctors had nobody in their line. And I kept saying to these families, go, see these other doctors. No, we wait for you. I was like, no. To the point it was going on for hours, and I was getting frustrated because of the stress, right, of having these lines, and these other doctors were literally looking at me like, share the wealth. And I'm like, look it, I'm trying. And finally, about 2 hours of back and forth, one of the translators came up and they said, Dr. Lane, they're waiting for you. And I was like, but why? And she said, you're the baby whisperer. Baby whisperer. I was focusing on end of life. I was focusing on senior citizens, right? I was like, baby whisperer, we wait for you. And I just stood there like in awe. And I went on to see hundreds of kids and families that weekend. And the last day we were there, and we're talking like the impoverished, part of these towns we were in Brazil. And there was a woman, I swear to God, she was 100 weeks pregnant. I mean, I swear to God, there's like 20 kids in there. I mean, she wasn't really, but I'd never seen a woman so huge. And I was the only one that knew how to address the pregnant women. Funny enough, even though I was focusing on life. And especially that one. So all 18 doctors, all of her family, everybody was standing around this table. And after the adjustment, she gets off the table and she's like, wow, for the first time in 3 months, I could breathe. And she went on to have like a 7-hour labor. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, if I was looking for an answer, maybe from a higher power of what my role in life is, maybe I should think again. And when I came back to the States, I just dove right into chiropractic, specifically for pediatrics. And now it's become my specialty. And I have 2 offices in Florida, one in Clearwater and one in Venice. And then I'm piloting a 3rd office in Florida right now. And the whole idea is to be able to help as many pregnant women have as natural labors as possible or reduce the interventions, and have these babies when they're born be able to latch and nurse and feed. And then in the pediatric world, I'm trying to get the kids away from the labels, all these labels out there when these kids had traumatic births, could have been over-vaccinated, under-nurtured, and then, we'll get into the whole, the root cause of things. Parasites underneath the root cause. We've got a lot of Lyme. We've got a lot of mold, especially here in Florida, up back home, where you are, we've got a lot of mold allergies and stuff. And then and then the toxins from the environment. And parasites like to hang on to those. And so it was in my journey of chiropractic that I was like, I need to do more than the adjustment. The adjustment is the most important thing, but to allow these bodies to continue to hold. And that's what's opened the door to all the nutrition work that I've been doing over the years and getting to the root cause truly of both neurologically with chiropractic adjustments and then within the body holistically to help the bodies unwind. And literally I'm getting results. Just this past week, a little boy could not hear they want to literally do a surgery in the little kid's ear. Came in for a first adjustment, already in 3 days, already 30% improved. Mom came in, she's like, it's still not right. I adjusted again. And then I tested him, parasites. He was on HVS, parasites, 5 days, hearing totally resolved. So wow. Just saved a kid from surgery in the period of 1 week to, 10 days. So that's what we do. And that's why. And so I'm honored to be on the show with you and to be able to spread the word about truly the natural ways that the body can help heal when presented with the right solutions.
Yeah, that's so awesome because, I definitely work with women who, unfortunately, experience fertility. And then we definitely tie that to exactly what you were saying, right? The toxicity load that unfortunately we're exposed to, just living in a world that unfortunately it's very toxic, right? And there's no way of escaping it sometimes. And so interestingly, you can't live in a bubble. So having some of these practitioners and some using this really root cause solutions to really help people live the lives that they want, right? That they deserve. And then once they do become pregnant, like how do we sustain that pregnancy, right? It's especially there's a history of hormonal imbalance or already miscarriages, and I mean, which unfortunately a lot of women do experience some of that. And then yes, once baby is born, how do we support mom and baby still after that amazing journey, right? And it's still different for all people. And I every time I watch a TV show and I see like someone going into labor, I'm like, there's no way that that's just that easy, right? So I would love to hear more about the things that you do to support women through that journey, right? Because yes, I've heard like the horror stories or like, oh my gosh, I was in labor for 72 hours and I could not wait. And so many women now I feel like are more aware of the different alternatives that they have versus just rushing into the hospital, getting caught up in, and then just not having that natural birth, right? And yeah, so tell us a little bit more about that. Like how do you go about supporting women through that process?
Great question. So I urge moms to start seeing me in practice around their 20 week of pregnancy. Around 20 weeks, they're through first trimester. They've already gone through the puking stage. They're already like, they're halfway to third trimester. And third trimester is where the most growth occurs. Okay. And I like to say around 20 weeks because it gives me 8 weeks before third trimester to clean up anything that may have been going on with their body prior to pregnancy and in the first trimester. Okay. Because there's a lot of hormonal changes. If they're petite and they're CrossFitters, they have a really tight core. If this is their fifth baby, their pelvic floor most of the time has been used and abused, right? If they're, later in life, having a child for the first time, I'm working with a woman, she's 47, having her first baby. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I work with, it doesn't really matter, but I love around 20 weeks. No day is a bad day to start chiropractic, but in my ideal world, 20 weeks. So it gives me 8 weeks to clean up whatever's happening with the body and getting pelvic floor stability. And what that's about is making sure the sacrum, which is the bone in the middle of our butt, is where it needs to be, as well as the hips, because those hips have to be flexible and mobile enough. So when she goes to labor, the hips actually open and open so the head could come down, right? So if there's any misalignment, even a millimeter or two, that literally could hinder the baby descending and coming out vaginally, right? And then between 28 weeks and delivery, and it's anywhere between 37 and 41 and 3 is the first, like most moms per research from Harvard, first time moms, 41 weeks and 3 days. So when I'm having moms come in and they're being talked about induction at 39 weeks, 38 weeks, I'm like, show them the research paper from Harvard, 41 and 3 weeks, right? I'm all about empowering women. Not that I'm trying to be a medical doctor, but some women don't know that they have choices, right? And as long as baby and mom's healthy, let's let the body's natural process work. So yeah. I'm there to support, educate, and then I do a lot of what's called spinning babies activities. And now spinning babies, when you think about spinning babies, we think, oh, the baby's breech, or the baby's upside down, the head is up. Spinning babies is all about body position of baby and mom. So I give her and her husband or her significant other exercises to do, again, to empower her to reduce that labor time. I check her, whatever her body needs. Some women are once a month, some are once a week, some are, twice a week. It really depends. And then I really educate about the relaxin hormone. Relaxin does exactly what it sounds. It relaxes. It relaxes so a big thing can come out of a little hole, but it doesn't relax just the vagina joint, right? The vagina hole, all joints. So we take polar adjustments less. Plus, around 36, 37 weeks, 50% of my moms are moving houses, right? Or they're going through some big life change, getting married, going on, like doing something huge. And then the other half are like, holy crap, we're having a baby in a few weeks. And it's that fight, flight. And my job is to help keep the body out of fight, flight, and more in that parasympathetic or that rest and digest zone, because that's when a baby will come. If mom's body's acting like she's being chased by a bear, labor goes 50, 60, 70 hours, right? But if I have her ready, like I had a mom this week, she's a professional in the medical field, and she wants to see her patients, and already 4 weeks ago I was like, you're going to need to slow your roll about 36 weeks. And she's like, nope. I was like, I'm telling you. I was like, I'm not forcing it yet. But sure enough, it's 36 and a half weeks. She's like, I have to slow my roll. And I was like, yes. And I was like, you're the only one to carry this baby to term. Everybody else, somebody else can do the laundry. Somebody else can do the grocery shopping. Somebody else can handle the kids. Hire a nanny, bring in your friends, cook the meals. You're the only one to get this baby out. So you got to take care of you. And that's a really big missing piece I find in society today, especially here in Florida. A lot of us are transplants. So we don't have our family. Our friend network either is busy with their own life, and they're not really getting the support or being directed to take care of themselves. So at least I'm loud and like in their face as many times, take care of you, take care of you. What did you do for you? And I literally hold them accountable. I need you to go to the beach. I need you to go for a walk. I need you to take a bath, or, whatever. And I might be the only one doing that to get them ready so we could have, a faster labor. And then the other thing is
Right.
I actually do house calls to home births and birthing centers. If a labor stalls, I get to go in with my moms and help unstall the labor, get the baby back in position, and get that baby out. Unfortunately, it's illegal yet for me in Florida. We're working on it. I have a couple lines in. And that's how we get moms to have the least amount of interventions and try to prevent that C-section if at all possible, and empower her the whole way through. And regardless, even if it has to go C-section because the baby's in danger or mom's in danger, because she got so much care, her resiliency postpartum is like through the roof because her body is so well connected and she's been so empowered.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And, I feel like that whole process speaks to mental health, right? And how much the preparation and to that throughout the whole pregnancy, right? And you bring an amazing point, which is about that support system and really utilizing, it's like a chess game, right? Like you're really utilizing all of your pieces around to be able to, because going through, I don't have kids. I've never been through, that journey, but I have many friends who have, and I know it's not small potatoes. I know it definitely changes your life forever and your dynamic and everything that you do. But I'm listening to what you're saying, and I feel like so many women after they give birth, right, like they've gone through that process, and now it's the real hard work, right? Which is like now your hormones are 100% depleted. You are on a totally different sleep pattern of, schedule. Baby too, it's a whole different being in the house and the dynamic and how that potentially affects, right? Because I feel like as you could be, as prepared as you can be, there are variables, right? And there are some things that potentially mom can't necessarily control or her support system around her. And so with postpartum depression, with the work that you do, how do you see that sort of unfold or being able to support moms through that process?
Great question. First of all, so as soon as she comes back in after the baby, and each mom is different. Sometimes it's on the way back from the hospital or the birthing center, and sometimes it's 2 or 3 weeks. And after a C-section, it's got to be at least 6 weeks. But I always check in. Like sometimes I'm checking the baby for latch, right? And even though it might be baby's appointment, mom, how are you? What's happening? Again, because nobody's really checking on her. Now it's all about the baby. Oh, let me see with the baby, right? And mom's frazzled. She hasn't showered. Her boobs are leaking. Her vagina still hurts. And so sometimes just that check-in, like, oh, you see me, brings them down.
Yeah.
The second thing is I always check their upper neck. Always. The upper neck ties into the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve it means the wanderer, and it literally ties into your heart, your gut, your stomach, like all the things that help make us go. And sometimes just adjusting that bone, mom goes literally, right, and starts to unwind the body. The third thing, I always make sure, and I start harassing her at about 35 weeks, meal plan. Before she had the baby, get food in the freezer. Cook the extra meals, because for the first 21 days, in the way I've been taught, you are a princess. You are in bed. The baby's brought to you, food is brought to you, you get out to shower and pee and go to your doctor's appointments and then back in bed. And that's really not understood, and especially type A personalities like me, or, you know, if you already had a toddler, or husband had to go back to, or spouse had to go back to work, you know, you feel propelled. But I really push her, because that bleeding that she has postpartum is the placenta healing from inside, because you labor the placenta, which is the nutrient wall between you and the baby. It's literally that big. That's ripped off your lining of your inside, and that has to heal. And so I literally have a not real life, it's knitted, but the size of a uterus and the spinal cord, or the umbilical cord, and a baby. And I explained to my moms and my dads, look, this is mom's healing. This was ripped off after labor, you know, she labored out. Yeah. This has to heal. If this was on her leg, would she get out of bed? And the dads would be like, no. Right. So back to bed she goes. Right. So yeah. I start with that, because a lot of it, I didn't even know until I got into pregnancy. I didn't know. You know, in 2023, we're very go, right? We got to get this done. We're an instant society, but we have to support and educate. I'm really big into birthing classes as well. Down here, I'm fortunate to have an amazing birthing class, and she really educates and empowers both couples, or both spouses, as to the future. The other thing postpartum, I make sure she's eating her foods. Are you having real foods, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables? Are you getting your protein? Are you drinking your water, right? The other thing is vitamin D, I find to be very, very key. You know, as practitioners, we know vitamin D is the underlying to all hormones working. Vitamin D has to be at least 70. I used to do a lot of fertility work. Vitamin D has to be at 70 in the body. And most of us, Florida, the Sunshine State, research shows most people are only at 35, right? By blood draw. Wow. And it needs to be at 70 just for hormones to work. So if we're chasing after thyroid, pituitary, you know, all these other things, but our vitamin D is 28, 35, 42, heck no. So I make sure that vitamin D is up and that she's able to absorb it. And then after we got vitamin D going for a while, you know, then we could chase after, you know, where the hormones really at. The other thing, vitamin B1 is huge for my mamas, making sure to get vitamin B1, vitamin C, and vitamin E to help with that mental component of things. And then making sure they do have a counselor, whether it's at church, whether it's their girlfriend, whether it's their mama. Who do you have to talk to? And if they don't, I often close the door. Mom's in tears. I have a full waiting room, and I don't give a crap, because right now that mom's mental health, you know, I know I've saved 2 at least from suicide because of being able to sit down and listen to that mom, because, you know, they're exhausted. It was physical demanding. The husband was already asking for sex. The demands of, you know, baby time. Everybody wants to see baby, the baby on their own schedule, latching, milk supply, and nobody really writes a book about what life is like postpartum. So really being there and explaining and helping her with just basics. And sometimes, like, I just gave you 10 different ideas. A mom who's truly overwhelmed, it's like, let's just start with some vitamin D, and when the baby naps, you take a nap. You know, and if it's really out of control, I pull in the husband, and I was like, look at. And I really get, like, hey, this is happening. 100 years ago, we had, you know, a tribe of women around us. Your wife has nobody. Cut her some slack. You're not going to see her vagina for 6, 7, 8 weeks. Like knock it off. Yeah. Like, she's just bird. And I get dramatic sometimes. And I'm not blaming husbands. It sounds like I'm blaming husbands, but, like, sometimes, you know, they're like, okay, the baby's here. Let's go. And the wife has no sex. She, you know, her vagina's still on fire, you know? And so, again, it's going back to that educating, you know, and when I tell dads what's happening, then they're like, holy crap, I didn't know. And then the viewpoint switches, you know, and we get more of that caring and that love. And, you know, I had somebody that was borderline suicidal last month, and I sat down with her, and what are we going to do? And it was daily check-ins. How are you doing now? How are you doing now? And even though, you know, I'm not a trained counselor yet, although I'm working on it, so I can help women, you know, the training that I have had so far has really helped me to listen and just have them heard and explain that, yes, these are all normal and this is common. And unfortunately, socially, we don't talk about these things. And sometimes they just hearing it, they go, oh, I'm not a failure. My hormones are going crazy. My mind is on fire. Okay. So we'll take the body out of it by feeding it and by resting it. And we're going for walks and taking my vitamins, and then having that mental component come off the body. Oh, and even moment of breath.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome because I think it's a comprehensive, right, approach. And as a practitioner, I don't believe in a single modality being the answer to all. We have acupuncture, we have massages, we have, all the different things that can definitely, all of them complement and really give moms that support that they need. Because yeah, it's like I said, it's not small potatoes to just get pregnant, keep your pregnancy healthy and happy, along with everything you have going on, and then go through the process, and then what comes
Totally.
afterwards. So you mentioned vitamin D being a key component to hormone balance and everything, right? Are there any other specific vitamins or nutrients you typically focus during pregnancy or after?
Great question. So each person is different. So I will say that each mom is different and her own history of what she's gone through is different. But as a blanket statement, I'm a huge fan of nettles tea. Getting nettles tea from Rose Mountain Herbs, it's like 10 pounds, a bag for 10 pounds, steeping it overnight in a big mason jar and drinking it throughout the day. There are more vitamins and minerals in nettles tea. I'm telling you, the list is this long of vitamins and minerals in nettles tea. To me, that's the best prenatal. That is the best multivitamin. And it tastes to me like hay. So I had, funny enough, I have it right here. I just got some more. I don't know if you guys have anything like this, but like, I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but this is blood orange, but I use blood orange, like loose leaf tea or a lemon drop tea. Just put a little bit in it, and I literally will drink it all day long. You just sip on it and amongst your water. And mom is getting so many great minerals, right? She's got iron issues. I'm all about, juicing some beets and the beetroot. I'm all about Floridex is the only natural iron supplement I like. It doesn't constipate my mamas. It's relative inexpensive. The other routes of people put them on these iron supplements, which is true, but it's hard to process. It's hard to absorb, and then it constipates them. So now we have a mom going through pregnancy constipated, can't detox, and now, and we got the double blood supply between her and baby. It just leads to a mess. So Floridex is my number one go-to. And then it depends, if she's throwing up, there's a couple things from Standard Process I use. Acupuncture, like you said, different modalities. I'm all about pulling in all my friends and family, right? Meaning, I have an amazing acupuncturist at both locations of my office. I'm actually adding one to my own team. So we have one prenatal massage, postnatal massage, cupping, postpartum, after they've healed. Sometimes for that low back, helping to pull the epidural out, like after, weeks after. But, I find that that's very helpful. Lymph massage, salt baths, salt room therapies, lymph drainage, lymph massage. And so it really depends, what happened, what her labor was like. I'm a huge fan of energetics is one of the lines I carry. Fields of Flowers or Calm 5 are my two go-tos right now as far as emotional support. I think I have some right here. Energetics is what I use. Fields of Flowers. It depends what moms need. I test them because I do muscle testing. 3 droppers, 4 droppers, is not uncommon. A little hack I've learned is I actually put a whole dropper on the crown of my head of that Fields of Flowers, and it seeps right into the brain and right to the emotional components of the brain. And I notice a difference in about 10 seconds. So for my mamas that are going through, I'm like, squirt it into the mouth and then put it on the crown of your head and never leave home without it. So those are my go-tos for the emotional aspect. And then I tailor it from there. I'm not going to do any parasite handlings with a pregnant mom or a postpartum mama. I'm not going to get into mold. I'm not going to get into huge detoxing because we got to keep the baby happy. But I do support her systems. Gallbladder is the number one organ that they like to pull. So gallbladder support using mostly Standard Process is my key line for that. I'm also trained in CMRT, which is chiropractic manipulative reflex technique. I actually know how to adjust the organs of the body to get them in communication again, and to get the juices and things of the various ducts flowing. So the body's like, oh, there you are. Okay, liver. Okay, Good, good. You're back at it, right? And then the body could start detoxing again. So it's patient by patient what's needed.
That's awesome. Yeah, energetics, it's such a great line, and it's so safe for both, moms and, I'm sure even dads could use a little Fields of Flowers or Calm 5, and even babies, right? Because they are themselves going through a journey. They found themselves in, I'm in the world, and it's just a whole transition for them too. So I love all the tools that you have, and I use some of them too. And I do love energetic standard process and anything that will definitely support women. So once baby comes and we've supported mom, how do you go about supporting babies?
Great question. So I always adjust them. I always check them. They might not need to be adjusted, but for a study that came out a handful of years ago, 99% of babies are born with misalignments of the upper neck. That's important because that's, again, where that vagus nerve comes out of. And it's like, for the guys that might be watching this, it's like the starter of your car, right? You could have a beautiful Mercedes, but if it doesn't turn over, if the button, nowadays, if the button doesn't start, you could have a beautiful Mercedes, but you're not going anywhere, right? Same thing. So I always check. Now, I'm going to say this right up front. The way I adjust a baby is not how I adjust an adult. Okay, there's no crack-a-lackin', there's no tools, there's no, no pops. It literally looks like I'm giving them a massage. I call a lot of my babies Squish. Hey, Squishy. Not because I don't know their name. Hey, Fabiola, right? But Squishy. One, because they are squishy and they're filled with fat rolls. But two, their bones literally haven't fully developed as hard as ours yet. So literally a little bit can go a long way. And then I actually, in the state of Florida, I'm allowed to go inside the mouth. And I put a glove on and I act as if this is the nipple. And as I go inside the mouth, I'm able to check, are the two bones of the roof of the mouth in place? Quite often they're not, because they get squished when the whole skull gets squished coming through the birth canal. There's three major muscles here to the side of the jaw that help the jaw open. I would say over 60% of babies have a jaw that's out of place. So they can't fully open up their mouth to get on mom's, maybe the nipple, but not the areola. And they need to get on the whole thing to actually be able to get all that good nutrients. And then sometimes mom, day 1, day 2, day 3, cracked nipples, hurt nipples. It's painful to latch, or only on one breast or not the other. So I get ahead of all of that. I always love to check babies within the first 2 weeks. If there's ever an issue with latch, the youngest I've ever adjusted was 5 minutes old. I was at home birth. So it's not, unfortunately, I still can't go to hospitals. So I have to wait if they have to come out of hospitals. But many a times, on the way home, the baby's coming in to see me, right? I do not mess with latch. And then, like you said, Fields of Flowers is, I topically have mom and dads put that on the baby's head or over their heart. If it was a really stressful birth, I always welcome baby to this world. I always talk to my babies like they're grown adults. In my viewpoint, right or wrong, I feel they're really big people in really little bodies, right? And sometimes you look at them and you're like, wow, this is an old soul staring into my soul, right? And so I talk to them. And it's funny, I never got to have kids either this life, but I have a puppy now. And I found, just like with a puppy and just like me as a human, the more you talk to me about what's happening, the cooler I am, right? Yeah. And so I talk to them and I explain who I am. Really glad that they're here. Congratulations. Who I am, what I'm going to do, that there's no shots here, that it's totally safe. And mom and dad are right next to us. And I just explain everything that's happening. I said, I'm going to go really fast because I know you're tired and hungry. And then I begin my work, right? And I have them, actually, the babies help me with the adjustment. And mom and dads are always floored because they'll do what I ask them to, kick your leg, move your, and help me make that adjustment. And then as they move forward, sometimes they need just 1 or 2 visits, or, if it was a 72-hour labor, they came out sunny side up, they were on an intubator, like depending what their birth was, they might need 6, 8, 10 visits, right? Each baby is different, and the exam will tell me that. And then I'm with them. They're with me, for technically life, but for years to come. And especially when they get into the crawling stage, I got to make sure their hips are correct. When they're teething, when they're pulling on their ear, teething, we have to rule out, is it teething or is it ear infection? Because to the medical field, it's the same. And then they get these antibiotics that wipe out their gut flora, when in fact it was just teething. So I'm there to help support the parents through that. And then definitely when they get into the, 16 months, 18 months, 20 months, making sure they're walking, making sure they're eating and talking and making sure all the body's connecting, making sure they're meeting their milestones. And then after that, whatever, supplements that they need to be on, maybe they're picky eaters, handling that. And that's where we pick up. That's where I really get into the nutritional aspect, especially if they've been well adjusted. They're being well cared for the family. Okay, then what deficiencies or what is in the body that shouldn't be, or what should be in the body and isn't, and ruling in and out. A lot of time we have to make some dietary changes, and stop feeding, if you will, the bad guys in the body. And then, but the thing I love about kids, and one of the reasons I specialize, is because they adapt so easy. What would take you and I 3 months, 5 days, 2 weeks, and it's resolved, which is one of the reasons I just love working with kids.
Yeah, that's awesome. And they are our future, right? I mean, yes, here we are as adults working on our health and helping other adults work on their health and really remove those barriers that are making them either chronically ill or whatever might be going on. Like you said, parasites, chemicals, mold, and all that stuff that really squashes someone's ability to heal and repair. But for kids, yeah, they're so, I feel like they're so much more exposed, right, to probably a little more vulnerable, right? Their bodies are still growing, like that blood-brain barrier hasn't fully closed. And we just need to be more aware as to what we're putting, what type of environment they're growing up in, and what type of foods they're eating, what type of supplementation. And I love to see your transition, right? Like even before they come into this world, how you've cared for them, because it's really taking full on responsibility for their well-being until, like you said, for life, because you've made an imprint in their life and their moms and dads and everything. So everything you've said so far is so inspiring. It's so awesome. I love it so much. I wanted to talk to you about infertility, right? Because I feel like it's unfortunately, I feel like it's become very common, where people are just in, and I also feel like women are having kids a lot later in life, like, yeah, I have a friend who just had her second baby, and she's in her mid-40s, and she's, total natural home birth, really takes care of herself. But I feel like women are waiting longer to get pregnant. But one of the things that we run into is this biological clock, right? And with working with women who've decided or chosen to wait a little longer, and, it might be a little more, it's not impossible, but it might take a little more effort, right? And a little more time. We do have to support hormones a little differently, right? Or our lifestyle. And you said stress. We're in a go type of drive-through life. And what are some of the things that you've encountered that to be root cause for infertility, given if mom has a good stress-free or at least manageable life, good diet, good relationships, but what might be going on with her body that could be hindering that pregnancy?
Great question. So I'm going to start the conversation off with explaining a little bit of my credentials. So I did fertility work nearly exclusively for several years. I was using the Schaefer protocol, which I have helped now dozens of people, not dozens, but oh God, I think there's 16 babies in this plant in the couple years that I was doing it that exist now, including a set of twins that are now walking this planet when all other options, including IVF, failed. Okay. It was using this very specific protocol. So I say that to say, in the years of all my training in the world of fertility, we were always told in the medical world that it was the women's fault or the women's responsibility. I have learned it's otherwise. It's actually, if not 50%, a little over, the men's responsibility, their health. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, even their health ties in indirectly to how the placenta in mom grows. The health of the placenta indirectly ties back to the dad. Dads, I always do a sperm count on dad. I have it professionally tested. And not just the amount of sperm. He could have like literally 15 million sperm, right? Cool. Are they the right shape? Are they the right size? And are they going in the right direction? So many of the cells in the sperm that I tested didn't have all three. It was either a very low count. I had one man, his sperm count was 2 million. That's nothing, right? They were incorrectly shaped and most of them weren't heading in the right direction. And they couldn't get pregnant for years and years and years. In 3 months, he redid the sperm count. It went to 22 million. And they had been working with a fertility specialist for 2 years. And the fertility lab is who ran the labs. They rechecked it 3 times because they'd never seen it in 3 months jump. And they're like, what are you doing? I don't know. I'm working with some chiropractor my life was making me go to, right? And the only thing he did was, the protocol I was doing. In 3 months, it jumped from 2 million to 22 million. Like, come on, so it doesn't have to take forever. So it's always blamed on us. If a woman's checked and the fallopian tubes are open and we don't have cysts and even if we have cysts, there's some natural handlings that we have that literally in 3 months we could reduce those cysts or those fibroids. We check to dad too. And then what is he eating? Where's his mental health? Where's his mental status? If they're having sex because she's like, I'm ovulating, we have to have sex. He's not a porn star. He can't just drop his pants and go to town. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be some love. And then especially if the baby's created in fight flight, literally his first moment, the cell and the egg come together, it's fight flight. And people laugh at me, but oh wow. Oh, there's some truth to that, right? So I look at dad, I look at both of their lifestyles. One dad, so she came in and she was wearing, it was their first visit, fertility consult. She had, and I'm allergic to most smells, right? I have a very high sensitivity. She came in with so much perfume, I actually had to set them across it was so hard. That's a neurotoxin, meaning it interrupts with the neurology or the communication of the body, just from that. Yeah. And he was having 7 espressos a day.
That's a lot.
So I didn't have to dig any more deeper. I mean, I did, right? And there was more things to factor, but I was like, if you just cut out the perfume and you cut out 7 espresso, have 1, sure. I'm not trying to kill you, but 7, heck no. And they started getting adjusted. And there's some other lifestyle changes, but it was more, they were active. They relatively ate clean. They were physically fit. They were spiritually connected. There's like 8 different points I look for, but they had these things. And so when I was doing the fertility program, I was like, you have to do all these things for 3 months and have safe sex. And then, because I don't want anybody to get pregnant now, because we have to rebuild the cells of your body. And then we'll talk again. Well, 6 weeks later, it was my birthday. And they came in for their adjustment. And they have like this look of like, I've done something bad on my face, but they're carrying this envelope, right? And I'm like, guys, what's going on? And they're like, Doc, we've been bad. And I was like, God, what did they do? Did they go get some hormones?
Cheating under.
Yeah, right. Like, did you get hormone shots? Did you eat, Taco Bell for 6 days? Like, what did you do? And he pulls out 6 pictures of all the positive pregnancy tests. He handed it to me. He's like, we broke the rules, but happy birthday.
That's so awesome.
And the biggest thing they changed in those 6 weeks was all the neurotoxins of all the heavy perfumes and the extra caffeine. For them, that's all it was. But no fertility specialist ever talked about that. And I'm not saying every fertility specialist is bad. That's not what I'm saying, right? And I'm not saying I'm all and they're not. That's not what I'm saying. But nobody picked apart, like nobody dove into their life and picked those apart. And for them, and they carried full term, beautiful baby, vaginal, relatively fast labor. She got adjusted through the whole pregnancy, and it was chiropractic and removing those neurotoxins, right? For others, I've had to totally revamp their dietary lifestyle. We've had to do marriage counseling, not me, but have marriage counseling done because, they're at each other's throats so much of, you didn't get me pregnant. Well, blah, 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 versus, hey, let's remember why we're together. A baby won't come into their lives if they don't think it's safe, right? For another one, they had a stillborn and she was keeping, basically had cryo-froze the baby, didn't want to bury it because she was trying to hang on to it, so a year, and I never knew. It was like 6 months of the protocol. I'm like, something's not working. And then I found out that, this baby had cryoed. And so I was like, okay, let's put the baby to rest and give it, proper bearing stuff. And so for them, I would never have thought that. but you really dig in, and obviously that's a more severe story, but there are so many women out there that have stories like that because they're so defeated, they're so lost, they've been told their body's broken. And as long as all the things are in place, as long as she's not missing a uterus or even one ovary. I've helped a woman get pregnant. She only had one ovary. We just had time which month that ovary ovulated, and we got her pregnant. So it's like, even that, as long as the pieces are there. I've helped a guy with reverse vasectomy. We got him pregnant. Like, I've been through it all. I'm not currently doing that work, but it is possible if you rule out, again, all the interferences and realizing that what they're spraying in the sky and what they're putting on our foods and the stress of COVID, what it did to us mentally, which is a whole, show for another day. But like for 3 years, working from home, the stress, a lot of people were forced to do things with their body that they did not want to do, go places they did not want to go. And we have to tie all those factors in, acknowledge them, get mom out of flight, solve the marriage, clean up the diet, get them moving, and then put back into the body what it needs so it could do what God meant us to do. These bodies were meant to procreate, so why aren't they?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well done. I am getting the goosebumps just because those are miracles, right? I mean, there's so many, we're so far advanced in technology. I feel like everything, right? And medically as well. And I do believe there's a place for medicine, but I do believe that I think if all of us like really with that oath of helping others, right? Like there's a reason why a person became a doctor. There's a reason why a person became a practitioner. Like all of us coming together, it will really just offer so many solutions for some people who really are out there with unhealthy pregnancies or fertility issues or miscarriages or you name it. So I think the work that you are doing down there in Florida needs to spread everywhere because unfortunately, like I said, it's a real problem. And I was just reading a study where umbilical cords were tested to see after birth. And unfortunately, they found hundreds of thousands of different chemicals that we are being exposed to. And some of them were not even yet in the database. And that's kind of scary. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's out there? And then no wonder why women are having such hormone, disruption, bad births, long labors, stuff like. And I think you bring up something very important too, like that is up to the women, right, to get pregnant. And it reminds me of very old times, right, where if the woman didn't get pregnant or didn't have a boy, especially from many years ago, then it was all about what she did or didn't do. And I feel like we're in such a different place right now as a society because women choosing to go back to work. Or women choosing not to go back to work. And there's so much shame with that. And so I think the work that you're doing is really empowering women on whatever decision you've made. It's a survival decision for you, right? And that's what's going to give you that life and prosperity and give that baby the happy life that you want for them. And that dynamic, that's awesome. It's I read somewhere that zinc is really good for sperm motility. Is that something you've come across or in your experience working with guys?
Here's a little life hack that will save some of you. It can be, but here's what's even better. And it tastes like horrible, but it's $25. It's called black seed oil. Black seed oil, literally a little story. The guy who found it, his tagline was, "It cures everything but death." The FDA sued this guy. The Federal Drug Administration sued him, and he won because he proved that it did cure everything but death, right? Wow. So in the case of the men, that's one of the things that they go on. Women can take it too, but it's mostly, that's I've done a ton of research on that. And because it literally helps it helps all cells. But I find that is a huge missing link. And the way to get it down is with some honey. Spoonful of honey makes the medicine go down. But it tastes horrible. And so some of my guys won't do it. But when you come to like okay, what can you do? Again, that's a blanket statement. Each person is different. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not saying that this is the cure-all, but of any supplement, that is one for sure that will be tested for my guys.
That's awesome. Yeah, and the fact that you muscle test, it just makes it even more precise, right? Because I think I'm a muscle tester too, and I feel like it does give me that insight as to what the body is really trying to say, and also what support you need, because you could be taking everything. Right. And sometimes I feel like just by taking everything just to see what works, you're doing a little more damage than just, and the body is like, whoa, you're giving me all of this and I still have to process it. And it just takes that much more energy for the body to be able to do that. So that's so awesome. We have learned so much from you, Dr. Lane. You're like a wealth of information.
It's been a great run. It's why I'm looking to expand, bringing on more associates. Exactly what it needs to spread. I want to bring more and more doctors. I'm hoping to come back to New York when things get a little bit less crazy up there medically, but I do want to spread this. I want to help more and more people, because there are women that literally are not sleeping at night because they can't have babies. There's marriages that are being destroyed. There are people that are sick when they shouldn't be. There's women that are suffering in pregnancy and delivery and postpartum that shouldn't be. And so I wake up every day and I work a million hours, because if every day I help one more person, then they're going to tell their friends and they tell their friends. And even if they never come to me or any other person, that they at least know they have hope. That is my tagline, to offer help and hope. And that's what I do. And so, and I'm thankful for people like you and those of us in the tribe of people that are out there. We've proven that we don't have to have kids. I wasn't fortunate enough to do that this time, but that I now take care of hundreds of others. We're making better homes, we're making better lives for others. And that's my true gift. And that's my way of having kids, but still going home to a quiet house at the end of the night at this point in my life. I'm getting older, but I'm grateful for what I do, and to have platforms like yours to be able to spread the message and offering that help and those answers that they might not be getting somewhere else. And and I wanted to be a medical doctor. They weren't going to accept any of my education, so they were going to put me through another 13 years of school and internships, and I just couldn't do it. So I believe that, medical lives, it saves life. I'm not anti-medicine, but I also believe that Hippocrates said way back, 1500 years ago, let food be thy medicine. And so all the supplement companies I use, it is food. It is whole food that we're using. It's homeopathics. It's, instead of eating the processed food and the energy drinks, why don't we find why the body has no energy? Let's get water into the body. Let's get the body detoxing. Let's get rid of the parasites. Let's clean up the emotional or mental stresses. There's so much stigma about mental health, but so many of us have it. Especially COVID really brought it to light how severe it is. But you don't need to be drugged, or you don't need to be hypnotized, or you don't need to go through, World War III to make it better. You don't need to talk about, Freudian stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's simpler, easier ways. And so, whether it's using a pastor at church, whether it's, using self-help books, whether it's listening to podcasts, whether it's, taking 10 minutes a day and doing something mentally for you, whether it's journaling things that you're grateful for, whether it's letting go of toxic people in your life, all those things make our life better. And people like you and I are helping people on the journey. And so whoever's watching this, we thank you for watching this. We know it's been a bit of a longer video, but there's so many gems and there's so many pearls, and there's so many of us here in America and abroad that would love to help you. So Mama Bear Chiropractic is the name of my office name. You could always reach out to the office. I'm happy to get emails. My website has my email address on it and the phone number for the office. There's the ICPA, the International Chiropractic of Pediatrics Association. ICPA 4, the number 4, kids, is a website. So if somebody's in this country or another country, they literally put in their country or their zip code, and they'll pull up like-minded people that are trained in chiropractic like me. If it's the nutritional aspect, Cellcore is a big company that I use. Standard Process is a big company that I use. Energetics, they all have our names, and they could give you, can direct you to people that have training like Fabiola and I. So you can get the help too. And then both of us, we've had, I'm sure, people have traveled from other states and even other countries to come see me before for care. that's not unheard of, and it's not impossible. So
Yeah.
my doors are always open for those who truly want help.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I was about to ask you, how do we reach you? How do we people find you? But we'll make sure to include all of that in the description of the video as well, so people can find you. And well, thank you so much for spending some of your morning with us. It was lovely learning from you, and hopefully we can do this again, because like you said, there's so many other topics that we can talk about.
Pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Lane. Bye.